When PSVR2 launched back in early 2023, one of the many launch games I was excited for was Resolution Games' tabletop RPG Demeo. It was a game I'd been playing on Quest 2 for a while, but the better looking environments, added visual effects, and better haptics made it shine on PSVR2, making it a must-have for the headset. Then a year later, a sequel of sorts called Demeo Battle Stealth dropped, adding more campaigns and making it easier to play in shorter sessions. Fast forward one more year to today, and the team at Resolution Games is putting a new slant on the formula, taking the time-tested dungeon crawling, added the D&D license, and evolving the campaigns into full-fledged adventures, with plenty of NPCs and dialogue to guide you on your way.
Here they come.
Regardless of whether you're playing Demeo Battles, or Battlemarked, it can feel pretty daunting, especially for those of us who didn't grow up playing this stuff, even if I now wish I had. But it's not nearly as complicated as it looks. You can play alone or with up to 3 friends online. Pick which character you want to play as, a paladin, sorcerer, rogue, ranger, fighter, or bard, and then you set off on your quest. And I'll tell you right now, even if you're playing alone, make sure you're controlling a full party of 4 characters, because it'll just kick your ass if you don't. You move your character when it's your turn, then using your cards you perform an action, cast a spell, or attack an enemy, then roll the die, which will sometimes be your best friend, but far more often be your worst enemy. Rolling a single sword, which is the most common roll, performs the attack normally. Rolling cross swords will perform a more powerful attack, and rolling a skull will complicate things. It means your character will fumble and usually miss their target, so when you're in a stressful situation, skulls will only make things worse.
Breathe.
But the charm here comes from it being set up like a tabletop RPG. You sit in a realistic room, the play area is a table, the dungeons are all dioramas, the pieces you move are actual board game pieces that look like South Park characters when they move, and you can see the other players you're playing with hovering over the board, making it feel like a real social setting. You can zoom, scale, and tilt the play space as much as you want, so you can be as close to the action as you want, or pull way back and play it from afar. And it all looks great. Some of the areas have way more detail than others, and the resolution isn't razor sharp, but it's hard to complain too much. All of the music is exactly what you'd expect from a game like this. You know, medieval, Nordic folk music, whatever. And it works perfectly, shifting to more intense stuff when the battles start. Oh, and you can play Battlemarked on the flat screen, which is great, and should keep the multiplayer lobbies packed. But man, I tried to play this way, and it just isn't nearly as intuitive, or immersive, obviously, as when you play in VR.
If I hit you, you deserve it.
All right. This is gonna be awesome.
So far, most of the stuff we've talked about pertains to every iteration of Demeo, but Battlemarked differentiates itself from its predecessors almost immediately. You're given the choice of 2 campaigns from the start, with more coming as DLC over the course of the next year. And I found the first campaign to be much easier than the second, so I'd recommend starting there. You're given an overworld map emblazoned with the world Neverwinter as its location, and you don't have to be even remotely familiar with D&D to recognize that name, because I'm not, and I did. And new to Demeo, there's just a ton of narrative here. There's a narrator, I guess the dungeon master, narrating as we enter and leave each area. There's characters to talk to, some of which will give you optional side quests, dialogue options, sometimes even with dice rolling to see if you're successful in your conversational tactic. The dialogue is well written, well acted, and some of it's legit funny. So before you start a game with some friends, you've really got to decide, are we going to take in every last bit of story and talk to everyone, or are we just going to skip through all the dialogue and get right to the battles? I've done it both ways and both were fun. I even played the entire first campaign solo, taking control of all 4 characters myself. It's like playing Phasmophobia. If you play alone, you'll probably take every move more seriously and orchestrate how every last detail will play out. But with friends, hanging out, talking about whatever, it all feels a little bit more casual.
I found his lordship injured on the road. Luckily, these fine heroes had already come to his rescue.
What's great is that you'll head to the tavern between missions, enter the bazaar and buy and sell cards from your deck, enter towns, and see all kinds of smaller maps where you engage in small-scale battles. Then every so often you'll enter a dungeon and say, oh right, this is just straight-up traditional Demeo. They're way bigger areas than any that you've seen before, they've got multiple floors, way more treacherous, and ends with an epic boss battle. And the best part is that once you've completed them, they're available to play on their own from the main menu, adding a ton of replayability. My favorite new addition to Battlemarked, though, is the leveling mechanic. Every time you level up presents a new opportunity to add a new skill to your character, so like a true RPG, you really are more powerful and more skillful by the end of your adventure. Even better, you can take this character with you into multiplayer or into the next campaign.
And he's only got 1 hit point left. Oh yeah.
Fly true.
I'm gonna go for this. Big guy over here.
We had a couple of issues during the 15 or so hours I've spent in Battlemarked so far. The first is definitely a me issue, but I accidentally trashed cards I was trying to play so many times that I really wish the trash card spot was on the other side of my deck. Hey, it's Future Brian editing this review. As it turns out, I'm not the only one with this problem, and we tested it out. Some cards just disappear when you try to use them. Weird, I know, but I'll make sure to report this to Resolution Games. And when playing online, we experienced some problems here too. The game would hitch here and there. Every new area would cause the game to freeze momentarily while it loaded the next area, and the freezing would get worse and worse over long play sessions until it just kicked us out of the game completely. My guess is that it's a memory leak issue. And when playing last night, my co-op companion got kicked out of the game, 4, maybe 5 times over the course of 90 minutes. So something's up. Listen, I shouldn't like Demeo, and I should like Battlemarked even less. I've never gotten into D&D, I've never played a tabletop RPG, and even though I like JRPGs, I've avoided strategy RPGs my whole life. But Battlemarked is all of these things rolled up into one, and I enjoyed practically every second. It's probably evidence that if I was exposed to this stuff when I was younger, I would have loved all of it. But what's more likely is that Resolution Games just knows how to make a fun game and take just enough from each of these sources without clobbering the player over the head with too many rules or too much complexity. What I'm trying to say is, you might like this one, even if you think you won't.
Hot off the wheels.